Hey, Soraya.
Hey, Jeff.
Guess what?
What?
Special guest. We're back to having a guest.
No.
Yes, we are.
Impossible. Is it?
It's possible, and it's happening.
You know, just in time for the holiday.
Yes.
Leave it to you, Jeff. Leave it to you to bring a surprise for our listeners on the eve-ish of the July 4th holiday. All right, Jeff, you just got to say it. Who are we having on?
Steve Wynn, the incredible, hardest working man of the Paisley Underground.
You can say that about 5 times. Yep.
Yeah, so he's going to tell us about some new things that are going on, but we're focusing on something today. What's that?
Yeah, so we're taking a look at, or we had a few questions to ask Steve about Down There Records, a label that's started out, releasing Dream Syndicate and some other Paisley favorites, and plus some others that maybe you weren't aware of. I mean, we know that Down There has come up for Russ Tolman, for True West, for Green on Red, Naked Prey, and a few other projects as well. So I don't know. We have questions, and I hope Steve has answers.
I'm pretty sure he does.
Fingers crossed. So let's get started. Hi, this is Soraya.
And this is Jeff.
Our podcast is called Paisley Stage Raspberry and Rhyme,
a podcast where the two of us play music that we like and share anecdotes and background about the tunes.
We hope you'll join our conversation. And without further ado, a grooviar.
Let's get groovy. Hey, Steve.
Hey there. How you guys doing? I'm all working out here. Do you hear me okay?
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good to go.
How's this right here? Does it sound good right now?
Yeah, it sounds really good. Sounds clear to me.
And you're not staring at the inside of my ear?
No.
Good. Okay.
No, we're not seeing any visual, and that's totally fine.
Yeah. That's fine. I feel since it's an audio broadcast anyway, it's best to do it this way. So I'm not saying you guys either. I still feel best holding a phone to my ear, old school, not, Perfect. I think after a year and a half of Zoom, I'm still kind of not cozying up to it. So this is the easiest way for me.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
All right. How you guys doing?
We're good. It's good to hear you. And Jeff and I have tons of questions, but I think our listeners would really, really like to know a little more about this tour. We want to start off with current stuff before we move back in time.
Great. I'm always up for talking about anything. So you steer the ship and I'll jump on board.
Sounds good. So tell us about this tour and these beautiful new tour dates.
Yes, it's happening again, Steve. There's live shows coming up.
It's amazing. I think at the low point of pandemic times when there was no touring and no shows, I sort of made a list of what I had done in 2019. And that was kind of one of my favorite years ever, in my life of touring, all kinds of great stuff with the Dream Syndicate. We went out there, we did the tour with Mata Hoople and the shows for These Times and all kinds of things, touring Italy and the US tour and European tour, just everything. And then the Baseball Project played at the Baseball All-Star game in Cleveland, and we did a residency at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I was doing solo shows all over the place. I mean, just, playing with -5 here and there. It was kind of a jam-packed year with all the different projects at full tilt. And, it was kind of, in a way, everything that I felt like I lived my life up to this point. It's like, this is what I was looking forward to all along, just to have the kind of life I could do different, fun, exciting things. And then looking at last year when nothing happens, like, oh no, where did that all go? So it's very heartening to me to know that I've got all of a sudden 30 or 40 shows coming up in the next 6 months, just like the good old days.
That's amazing. We're very excited.
Yeah,
yes.
And these are all solo acoustic. I mean, I started planning these a few months ago when things weren't quite as certain or weren't quite as rosy. So a lot of, for example, I'm doing a tour of Italy and things were really bad there, obviously, but they're much better now. And we were kind of debating back and forth with the agents and promoters, like, well, is this a good idea? And I said, look, the way I look at it for the European tour and really all the touring is if 3 months from now things get worse and I have to cancel the tour, we've got bigger problems in the world than a Steve Wynn canceled tour. And they all agreed. So let's go full steam ahead and hope for the best. But I think it should be fine.
Okay, so I think it should be noted for listeners who maybe haven't noticed. So right now, current start date September 3rd in Syracuse.
Yes.
Then moving through September in the US, then October, all these beautiful dates in Italy.
Yeah.
You know, this is, and then in January. So then there's a bit of a break, and then January back in Europe. And then with currently the last date being shown as February the 2nd in Athens.
Right, but there'll be more dates added.
Yeah.
The U.S. tour, the first thing I'm doing in September, right away, and like I say, starting in Syracuse, is pretty much a rebooking of the house concert tour that I had booked for April of 2020. I mean, I was very excited about that, and I've been planning for a long time. You know, I've done house concerts on and off for the years, but I never did a complete tour of nothing but house concerts. And I figured, let's give that a try, see how that feels. So this is that tour kind of rescheduled, and there are going to be more dates coming on that one. So that's going to be a full 2 weeks in the States, and the extra dates will be announced very soon. And then the European date, like you're saying, in January, there's going to be more there too. So it's all kind of coming in and loading up. But what's following that, I can give you a scoop on this. After these 3 acoustic tours, or acoustic, electric, or whatever, juggling, comedy, whatever, I don't know what I'll be doing. I never know until I get on the plane, which depends on which guitar I pack in the taxi. That's what I'm going to do. But beyond that, next year, for those keeping score, it's and this will tie into the other things we're talking about today. It's the 40-year anniversary of the formation of the Dream Syndicate and of the release of Days of Wine and Roses, and we are going to do a bunch of shows, tours of the U.S. and Europe, where we're going to do 2 sets, playing a first set of all of nothing but songs from the last 3 albums, and then a second set of Days of Wine and Roses, start to finish in order. So it's going to be kind of it's like a now and then commemoration of the anniversary tour.
Wow.
And we are hoping, the plan is, I'm fingers crossed, we're working on right now, is to play Los Angeles on the 40-year anniversary of the release of Days of Wine and Roses. That'd be really special.
Oh my gosh, Soraya.
Okay,
let's see.
Jump back into your skin. Okay, jump back.
Wow, it's going to be a blast.
That's
no one knows about this. You guys are the first, so this is hot off the presses.
Wow.
See?
Yeah, I can't wait.
Steve Wynn is the godfather of Paisley stage resume.
Yes, indeed. Indeed.
Well, and that's true, because we're talking about the 40-year anniversary of the Dream Syndicate, Days of Wine and Roses. We're also talking 40-year anniversary of the Paisley Underground.
Yeah.
So that's the whole thing.
Wow.
I know, crazy. 40 years, amazing.
That is amazing.
Fantastic. Oh my gosh.
In the perspective game, I was thinking about, well, what was happening 40 years before that? And it was like, what, smack dab in the middle of World War II, and people were listening to Benny Goodman and Glenn Miller. So it's lots of perspective there.
That's true.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, you're talking about Dream Syndicate. We understand, and I don't know if it's okay to talk about, the band may be going into the studio to record another record.
Yes, that's very true. And I'm not sure when this is going to air, so it might be past tense rather than future. But we are going into the studio 3 days from now to record a new album. We're going to be it's going to be me and Mark and Jason and Dennis. We haven't seen each other since that show at the Echo, so we're going to be reuniting, hanging out, having some fun, and making a new album. Unfortunately, Chris won't be there because he can't.
Right. We're
still not letting people from Europe in, but he's going to be contributing overdubs by email, which works just fine. So it'll still be the 5 of us, but the 4 of us will be in the studio making a new album in Richmond, Virginia, like the other 3.
Nice.
Really excited about that. We've a lot of new songs. I don't want to say too much about what kind of a record it is, but it is, in our true tradition, it's a transition and a progression from what we've done before. So it's not any of the past 3. It's a combination in a way, but it's gonna be a whole different thing again.
Wow.
Okay, I'm already excited.
Yeah.
Me too. I mean, I'm sure the same for you guys, and starting to get back into things you love doing. It's just, I think we're looking at this session like, well, we hope we make a good record like we always do. We hope that, we, have something good at the end, of the session. But in reality, we're gonna be just happy to hang out for a week, just to spend time together and, cook burgers and have a beer and catch up on what's been going on. So no matter what, the session is going to be great.
Yeah, I imagine the first couple days is probably going to be more reuniting than anything.
I think so. I think plenty of that. But we reunite with music. So I think that the in a perfect way, I sometimes feel like that the communication that goes on when we're playing our instruments is very similar to what happens when we're, sometimes even better than when we're talking. Sometimes you can get tongue tied, but you pick up a guitar and say, okay, I'm gonna show you in this guitar solo just how frustrating the last 16 months have been.
Nice.
It's like I hear you.
We're here for all of it. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. That's how we talk.
Oh man. Okay, so new tour, new music. Jeff should.
Yeah, it's great, and a lot going on. The solo touring, I really, I love touring solo. I've always liked that, and it's just a really, just a great way to get intimate and communicate with. I mean, I think I said it to you guys before, but when I play shows with the band, we're talking to each other on stage. We're communicating through instruments on stage, and the audience is a voyeur to what we're doing. When I play solo, I'm communicating with the audience. It's just I connect with the people in the room the same way I connect with band members on stage when I'm in a band. So it'd be a nice way to get back into playing again, that sort of intimacy. And also it's a more nimble, easy way to tour if there's any difficulty in getting back into the groove. So we'll see. But once I get past this first 3 months, not past, that's a bad way of putting it, but once I do this early solo touring, then it's full steam ahead to the Dream Syndicate for next year.
All exciting. All of it's very exciting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And at the same time, as we're talking about this, the Baseball Project is playing a show in Portland next month, late July, because we're heading out there to. Linda is doing some drumming on a project with Peter Buck and Scott McCoy, and Linda, of course, being Linda Pittman, my wife, and so I'm tagging along. We're gonna do a little show, and we're talking about doing a new record with that band. So it's kind of like, let's get back in. I think we all appreciate the things we had, and getting together with friends for a meal, good to just talking face to face with friends more than ever. So that translates the same way to playing music with people and for people.
Jeff, we say it often, but Steve Wynn is one of the hardest working guys in the Paisley Underground, not an entertainment, because it's really great to hear. And I think you make a really fair point that if we think about, Dream Syndicate, Days of Wine and Roses, we're coming up on a 40th anniversary. 40 years before that, I think you put it at World War II. So there we saw the end of World War II. We saw this renaissance, and we saw this explosion of new music, new styles. And I think what you're telling us right now is we've all been kind of suffering for about 18 months of just kind of plugging along, doing what we can, and just anxious to get back into clubs and hear new music. And what we're hearing from you is there's more than one piece of new music or entity that you're involved with that's going to give us that. And I know I speak for me and Jeff. We're way excited to hear it all. Baseball Project too.
Yes.
Love it.
Yeah, I mean, we all the, like I said, in 2019, all these different things were all going at full tilt. So just hoping to pick up where we left off and just spend time with friends. I was talking to somebody about this, but they're saying, well, what followed the influenza pandemic of 1918 and 1919? And it was the Roaring 20s. I mean, I there might be a connection there. That after that, people went bonkers for the next, until the Depression. People went completely nuts and just, partied down for 10 years. So maybe that'll happen again.
Yeah, I think so. I kind of think so.
We're ready to follow.
Yes, we are.
God, I mean, exactly. It's funny because, I think that, like anybody, sometimes I shouldn't speak for the whole universe, but I know that in previous times, if maybe I started over planning things like, oh my God, what have I done? I've got made plans for every night this week. I might get a little bit of a panic. We've been out every night in the last week with different friends, and it's just glorious. Just being face to face with somebody in a restaurant or in a bar, and catching up feels great. I think you really appreciate the things that, obviously maybe you took for granted, or maybe even felt like, too much, and the same way translates to making a record now. It's like, bands in the studio now, as opposed to 40 years ago, it's very natural. It's not, you can't even condemn this, but it's very natural for people in the studio to glance down at their phones, or glance, like while you're listening to a playback, checking the baseball scores or checking this or that. I think we've all had plenty of time with our devices in the last year, and and there's no novelty in looking at a phone or an iPad. So I think we'll be just shutting those down and making music, because that's what we haven't done.
Yes.
Love it. Okay, so now that we got those updates, which we got an exclusive, so listeners, you can thank us later. All right, Jeff, so let's take a step back.
Yes.
Okay, so one of the things with just
40 years back.
many
40 years back, World War II.
There you go. It all happened one day. So, Steve, one of the things Jeff and I have been doing is kind of taking a step back and looking at some of these foundational EPs and LPs that have made an impact on us. And one label that kept coming up was Down There Records. And so Jeff and I kind of started talking about Down There. And we said, one day we just need to ask Steve these questions. So we have a bunch of questions about Down There. And one of the things that surprised me the most is I found not a whole lot written about the label per se out there, or at least accessible to us in ways. And so we got lots and lots and lots of questions.
Fire away. I love talking. I'm proud of that label, and I'm I love talking about it.
So I'm a huge fan of independent labels, and a lot of the music that I own was put out by independent labels. So we're very curious about your label Down There in particular. Could you tell us about why it got started and how it got started? And I think Russ Tolman is part of this story.
He's part of the story later on, not the beginning.
So let's talk about the beginning then.
Yeah, I mean, the beginning, and it's funny because we were out, Linda and I went to dinner last night, not to name drop, with Ira Kaplan and Georgia Hubley of Yellow Tango. And we were talking about the fact that, before the era of the Dream Syndicate and of them just a little bit later, and that kind of 80s indie thing, most bands, even underground, even punk rock bands, would sign to major labels and would kind of in their minds say, well, we're going for it. We're going to be toppermost of the poppermost, like the Beatles said, like that was the idea. And it wasn't until the very early 80s that kind of bands started thinking, oh, we will never be big. That's not in the cards, but we will put out independent records. And, SST kind of started that a little bit with, with stuff they were doing. And it was a new idea. It wasn't an automatic thing to look for the cool indie label because they didn't exist. Slash Records was around, and they were one of the ones, and a couple other ones out there, but it was still kind of a new thing. I was working at Rhino Records at the time the Dream Syndicate started, and my job there. I started working there in 1981, and when I started working there, the great record store. It was just a legendary, classic store in every way. And they're kind of the staff they had there. There was the one guy who was the blues expert, and one guy was the reggae expert, and one guy was kind of the folk music expert. Everyone had their little areas. One guy knew kind of classical and avant-garde stuff well. And when I got hired there, there became the guy who I was. I was the independent labels, whatever that meant at the time, and imports from England. And I was sort of the buyer for that stuff. So my job was to go in there, and contact all the distributors, and there were like places I have to remember now, Gem and Dutch East India, and there were a bunch of them around. And Green World was one. And I would get on the phone and buy whatever the new Flesh Tone single and the new Fall single and whatever, and spend $1,000 of the store's money on these cool singles and EPs and albums. So I had kind of a knowledge of how that all worked. I kind of got a crash course in that. And around September of 81, I had recorded in my basement well, we'll talk about that a bit, in down there, the basement of my father's house where I was living.
Oh,
Yeah, so we'll get to that. I was living for a couple of years in my father's basement near UCLA when I was going to school there, and I had a little 4-track reel-to-reel recorder, and I'd made a bunch of recordings because that was fun for me, and I pretty much figured my days of playing music in bands was coming to an end. It was time to get on with life, and I had this song called "That's What You Always Say" I recorded, which really had no words, but I liked the way it sounded. It was a cool recording I'd done, and I thought, well, I'm going to put this out myself just so I can say I did it, just so I have a single I can always say, look what I did. And I put it out on an independent, self-pressed place called Rainbow Records in Santa Monica. That used to, I think it might be still around actually. That you could make 100 copies or 1,000 copies or 10,000 copies of a record. And I made 500 copies of this record, and I called it 15 Minutes, named after the Andy Warhol, reference. Someday everyone will be famous for 15 minutes. Well, this is my 15 minutes. I had to come up with a label for the record. And I said, well, I'm living in my dad's basement, so I'll call it Down There. And as yes, there's a little bit of a kind of, what shall we say, erotic connotation as well. And also and also kind of a devil thing as well. So it was kind of worked on multiple levels, but I literally was living in a damp basement at the time, which is incidentally where the Dream Syndicate formed, because it's in that basement. I started playing with Carl Prakoda, who came over one day, and eventually with I started playing there actually with Christy and Kelly Cowan of Wednesday Week, and then Carl came over and Kendra came over and blah blah blah, and Dennis came. Next thing you know, that basement spawned this for the Dream Syndicate and this label, and I put out that single. No big deal. I think probably sold 100 copies, mostly at Rhino with me forcing it on people. It's like, well, while you're buying that Richard Thompson record, you might want to buy my record too. Okay, kid. Okay, yeah, sure. What the hell? It's only $1. But when the Dream Syndicate did form in December, and I think we've told you the story before, and it's been talked about a lot, but we recorded what was meant to be a demo tape to get gigs, as a band would do, so we could have, and we all liked it so much, we all felt like, this is kind of, are we crazy or is this really good? And the four of us felt like it was good. I said, well, here's the deal. I kind of know how this world works, this world of self-pressing records. I know how to do that. I know where to go. I know how you get records distributed. And here's the crown jewel here is my job, since I do spend with lots of money with these distribution companies for Rhino, they'll probably be kind of okay with taking on some copies of my new band's record. Well, sure enough, that's what happened. We did the EP, the Down There EP, and put it on Down There, and made, I think, 1,000 copies, and had no problem getting distributors to take it. They were very nice. Well, first of all, it was a good record. they heard it. They said, hey, this is good. So it wasn't just a favor and, guilty thing. It's like, oh, this is pretty good. And we know you and blah, blah, blah. So it made it easy for me to get people to take it on. Very easy for me to see how it was doing and all that. And just a good confluence of things, and working at one of the coolest stores in LA. So I have to say, if the record was no good, I guarantee nobody would have cared anyway. But the combination of having distribution right away and working at a cool store and going out clubbing a lot at the time, it made it kind of take off. And it was boom. We sold 1,000 copies and pressed 1,000 more and sold those out right away. And we were on the top of the independent charts in LA Weekly week after week after week. So it happened quickly. It was great.
That's amazing.
And so, yeah, so I had this label, and I wasn't, I like the name, and we Dennis and I did the entire artwork for the first record with press on letters, like like what do you call them, like little things you buy at an art store. You kind of use your pencil to scrub the back, and it goes on there. It was completely very homemade, and we had some help from his friend Tom Rashan, who was a musician and artist out in Pasadena, who eventually went on to win Grammys at Warner Brothers for all kinds of things, including REM records and stuff like that. But he was just Dennis's buddy, so he helped us lay it out, and we just put it all together and learned really, very. I mean, that record cost $200 to make, nothing for the artwork, and just pressed ourselves. And I was getting boxes of records from the pressing plant, putting them on the back of my Honda Civic, and driving back to Rhino and taking some there and shipping them out. And it's crazy. It was, it was all very easy. And a side thing of this, at the same time, I was starting to get to know, for example, Vicki Peterson and Sue Hoff from the Bangs, and they wanted to do the same thing. And I said, well, I've done this, so I can help you guys out. And I remember going out for breakfast at Tom's Number 5 on Pico and Sawtelle, and telling Vicki and Sue how to press your own record and get get plastic sleeves for your 7-inch and stuff like that. So I was very, like I say, a lot of reasons. There's a lot of things that helped the Dream Syndicate happen. Hopefully, not least that we were a good band. But I was lucky to be in that situation at the time where I kind of put together all these, banks of information I had at my disposal.
Wow. So it's almost like the stars were aligning to allow this
in a nice way. Even down to one thing. My favorite stories from that day is when I got the test pressing from the Rainbow Records. I got the test pressing. I picked it up down, and they were just not far from Rhino. Came back to the store and had it in my car. I think I brought it in because I didn't want to work by the test pressing. And that day, Peter Zaremba from the Flesh Tones came into Rhino, and as he was leaving the store, I chased him down the street and I said, Peter, I'm big fan. I just wanted to give you this. He said, oh, cool. And a month later, I see in New York Rocker, he's talking about this great new record by the Dream Syndicate. So it was all those things really helped. Being, it made it easier to get people to pay attention to a band with no reason for anyone to pay attention.
Wow. So I've got a question then. The shift then, here's something I like, then the band records something and they say, hey, this needs distribution. Then it started snowballing from there. But when we look at the list of artists, I mean, how do you then start getting artists records and distributing them on down there? Because this is a pretty varied list that we've found. We
yes.
Definitely don't think it's the definitive list, but it's pretty extensive.
I think there may be 10 records. I mean, what happened next was, so our record came out, and I'd kind of borrowed money here and there, and did things on consignment and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But we made the money back right away, so that was great. Like, oh, good, God, I can't believe it. We've already made our money back on that record. And I again, and I hate to credit this too much, but again, working at Rhino meant that all the distributors paid me on time because they didn't want to get me mad. It's like, hey, I'm gonna, today I'm calling you to get paid, but next week you're gonna be calling me to get paid from Rhino. So so let's make a deal here.
Right.
But we got paid and broke even, so that's great. So suddenly, great, all that money's back. And right around that time, I met the Green on Red guys at the show we played together at the Catholic Grand, and I started becoming friends with them. And Dan Stewart gave me this cassette they had made at a rehearsal studio in Hollywood. I can't believe I remember this stuff. But I program rehearsal studio in on Yucca and Vine, I think, or something like that. But anyway, they had this course on cassette, and I said, "Oh man, Dan, this is really great. I love it. What are you going to do with this thing?" He says, "Well, we were thinking about like dubbing 50 copies and just selling it at our shows." I said, "Oh no. Let me tell you what. Let me put this out. I would love to put out your cassette. You know, your I think 7 songs actually on the first EP, and I kind of know what I'm doing and see what happens." Sure enough, we put out the Green on Red EP, right? You know, and it does great. And my thing with bands was always, well, let's say starting Green on Red, I said, here's the, I'll put it out. I can't give you any. Well, they cost me $100 to make the cassette, so that was no problem there. But I said, when it breaks even, and the expenses will be really minor, we'll split the money. You guys get half, I get half, which is a good royalty rate for a band. You don't get that at a regular label. So it was like, we'll go 50-50. Okay. So sure enough, their record comes out and it did great. Same thing, immediate, boom, sells great. We had a big party at El Coyote, big margarita and Mexican food party to celebrate the record going into the black, and their thing did great. And like, all right, and everyone loves the Green on Red EP. It's fantastic. And suddenly I'm got a label going. I'm like, God, So the next thing that happened was similar thing. Naked Prey, Tucson friends of the Green on Red guys. I hear their cassette, like, oh my God, Naked Prey, you guys are the best thing ever. And same thing, put it out, breaks even right away.
A runaway bullet split my mind, shot from the other side of things that live and breathe and die. Never asked the reasons why it passed through my brain so fast. My friends, I'm free at last. Now lay me down to sleep, I pray to God. My soul to keep the flesh on the wall.
It was a nice start to 3 really cool records that people liked, that started bands kind of careers going. And then that was kind of it. That was sort of, then after those 3, I just, I never wanted to be a label guy. Since then, now today, I don't dig the music business. It's not like, it's never been a thing like, oh, I want to, make it big in the biz. It's like, I just want to make records and have fun and, maybe help some other people out along the way and do that forever. So I stopped doing the label, but sometime, not a few years later, we're talking about the Naked Prey records from 83, maybe 84, sometime around 87, I had become friends with a guy named Bill Hine, who worked at who ran Enigma Records. He had been at Green World before that, distributing our records. But I talked to him, and he said, if you're into this, Enigma's kind of starting to happen. If you're into this, we'd like to do a deal with Down There where we put out, a series of records, like say 4, 5, 6 records, whatever. I forgot how many, but we'll do this many per year, and we'll cover the cost and distribute them. And rather than I would make a lot less money, but I would they would take care of all. I wouldn't lose any money. Mm-hmm. So wow, that sounds like fun. And I get to for me it was never like, oh no, I'll get loads of money and live in a penthouse in the Hollywood Hills. No, it was more like I get to help bands out. I get to turn on people onto good music I like and maybe help some other groups. So we started going, and when that happened, the Dreams thing, it was at full tilt at that point, and that was my main thing. But I wanted to do this, so I knew, of course, Russ Tolman from back in Davis, California, where we did Suspects together, and we're good friends. We'd stayed friends through True West and all that, and I knew he had a good business sense, which he did and still does, and also that he was cool with the music scene, a big music fan. So I said, Russ, can you help me out with this? Can you run this thing for me? He said, sure. So he became like really like the general manager of down there,
Okay.
whatever that means. And he was, the deal was, I'll find bands. I think I was paying him something. I hope. If I have to ask him that, can't remember now. But he was pretty much the guy who had dealt with Enigma and dealt with all the business part of it. And we were, a label, and we're having a blast. So now I'm looking around and I'm thinking, okay, I can't remember the order of things. I think the next one might have been Divine Weeks. Who I had met through maybe doing a show at UCLA. I forget again how I knew them, but I loved this record and thought they were great. Put that out. And at the same time, Top Jimmy and the Rhythm Pigs were my favorite band in the universe back in 1981 when I was hanging out at Cathay de Grand and DJing there.
Well, what's it gonna take you to make you move? Standing around and acting so cool. You ain't got no goddamn business here. But why don't you just dance on buy me beer?
They were, my God, Top Jimmy and the Rhythm Pigs are, they're legendary, of course, because, Van Halen sang about them, and they were the greatest live band, and Tom Waits went to all their shows, and they never made a record, never had a record out. And I'm like, this is criminal. And I met with somebody in the band, I think the bass player, Gil T. And I said, Gil, is there any recording of the band? And he said, yeah, there actually is one. We made a record that never came out. I said, well, please let me put it out. So I pretty much would, put out one after another. Met a band in London on tour called Doctor's Children. Thought they were great.
Everybody's talking.
Oh, and of course, Russ Tolman's first solo record. That was a gimme. That was an obvious because he was My friend was managing the label, and it was a really good record. So all these things happen with that same kind of deal. Like, look, I can't promise anything, but we'll put this out. You've got to do. I can try to promote it, but you got to promote it. But I will make sure your record exists, and then we'll split whatever comes in and off to the races. So it was kind of that's how things work. Now, around the same time, jumping ahead, suddenly the label's up and running, and people are talking about, oh, down there is like a label that you might want to be on. So around this time, the legendary Fast Freddie Patterson, a fast, man about town in LA, probably, I would imagine a lot of your listeners know him because he was a big guy in the scene, cool, one of the coolest guys in LA, now lives in New York and is still a very good friend. He went to Boston to see a friend out there and came back to LA and said, Steve, I saw this great band in Boston. I saw them play their first 2 shows. They're just starting, and I happened to be where they were playing their shows, and they blew me away. And I thought they'd be great for down there. And I told them, they said, oh, we're big fans of the Dream Syndicate and Green on Red. We'd love to talk more about this. And they gave him their demo tape. And he brought it back to me and said, so, you might want to put this out. And this demo tape was really good. And I contacted the band, and they said, yeah, here's our lawyer, and we'd love to be on down there. I said, great, let's do this. They said, the only thing is we need $2,000 to pay back our recording. I said, look, here's the thing. The way down there has always been, we don't give any money, but you're going to get half the money back on the record, and you'll make more at the end. But just, I can't change the rules. That's the way it works. They said, oh, well, okay, we can't do it then, but thanks. I said, thanks as well. It was the Pixies. So
wow.
So I turned down the Pixies. That was my that's my Genius record label stuff. And I always say that rather than lamenting that I could have been like, the next, Stiff Records or Rough Trade or who knows what, I think had they signed it down there, it would have killed their career. So I think I did them a favor.
I doubt that.
No. And the same thing happened. So a similar story happened. I'm just rattling off all this stuff, but I went to Raji's one night to see the Spinning Wig Hats, which was the a secret show by the Long Riders. They played at Raji's, and they had Steven's friends from Richmond, House of Freaks, open the show. And I saw the first LA show of House of Freaks opening for the Spinning Wig Hats, the Long Riders. And they were fantastic. And oh my God, House of Freaks just blew me away. Brian and Johnny played a killer set, and I was standing next to Gary Stewart the whole time watching them play. And I said to Gary, I'm thinking about putting these guys out and down there. And Gary said, oh, because I was thinking about asking them to sign with Rhino. And I said, please go ahead. You win. They should be with Rhino. Yes. I mean, so that was my attitude with the label. It was never trying to, be a big business thing or try to make a lot of money. It's just like, well, if you're a band and I like you and you've got nothing better going, I'll be your label. And that was sort of the thing. That's how I did it.
Wow. So there was a record that my bandmate puts in his top 10 of all-time records, and it's The Last Days at the Ranch by the Romans.
I didn't even mention that one. I can't believe I didn't mention that. Yes, of course.
So how did you become involved with the Romans?
How did I miss that one? That's terrible. Since I produced it, and they're my friends, and it is really one of the records I'm most proud of on the label. My God.
In my hometown, holler, holler, yes you holler. In my hometown, you gotta holler. If you wanna be heard, you gotta speak out loud. 'Cause everybody else just talks so proud. In my hometown, nothing, you ain't nothing. In my hometown, you're nothing. If you wanna be something, you gotta be rich. And the richest ones got a life without cash. Now, where I'm from, you can't come in, you can't come in, you can't get in. Where I'm from, you can't come in, and you can't stay, buddy, that's your wife. You can't make them happy or keep them quiet. When you come to my hometown, look away or you see them frown. They're always that way in my hometown. Now where I'm from, it's always nice.
That happened. I guess. Well, I was a huge fan of Monitor, first of all, which I still think is one of the best bands ever out of LA in history. It's like they were a great live band. Kendra and I used to go to see them whenever they played, which was very rarely, back in 1881. And so I knew Michael Uhlencott and Keith Mitchell through that band. Very different band than the Romans, incidentally. And I knew Juan through Dennis and Human Hands. So these were friends, and I knew Robert Lloyd probably best of all, just from being a friend, hanging around. Okay. I knew him first as a music critic for the LA Weekly when he would great things about the Dream. But so all that as a lead in, I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, I sometimes forget the order of things. Actually, but the Romans existed before Robert. A band, they were with Mikey Borens, who later played with Chris Kakavas in his band, and played my band as well for a while. Anyway, the Romans opened for the Dream Syndicate at the Roxy, I think in '83. I'm just rattling off. I sometimes forget the order of things. So I was hip to the Romans. I knew they were doing it, but eventually Mikey left the band and Robert replaced him. Okay. So I had that friendship. So it was a natural thing. And I think they came to me and said, would you like to produce our record? We'd love to have you do that. And I don't think I'd ever produced a record at that point. Oh. But we did it. We did it at Quantic Studios in Hollywood, where we'd done Danny and Dusty. And it was a great session, just a really, really productive session. Michael Uhlencott's songs were so good, and the band played so well together, and I had a great time. I think I brought something good something out of them. I mean, my attitude towards producing is generally just one, to help the band get the job done, just to get in there and keep things moving and organized, and also to be a cheerleader and try to help the band make the record that they'd want to hear in their heads. If I can help them get to that point, I'm not the Todd Rundgren type where I'm going to take you and make you into my vision. It's like, what would this band's dream record sound like, and how can I help them get there? And that was a case where it happened, which just worked great. So it was a natural to put out on Down There. So that was, again, very easy. And in all these cases, all the bands we're talking about that were on Down There, I don't know how easily they would have found another label. I'm not saying they wouldn't have, and you probably could have, but there was never a case of, like it would have been with the Pixies or House of Freaks, where I'd be bidding on somebody. It's like, well, sure, I'll put it out. Now, I will say, sadly, the first three records did fairly well. The best, I mean, I think eventually, and I generally don't like talking numbers, but I'm so proud as a label magnate. I mean, I think the Dream Syndicate and Green on Red probably sold 10 to 15,000 each, and that was just great. I mean, wow. It was like, wow, well, nothing else after that sold like that. And the ones that I did for the bands, and when the label started going with Enigma, were not selling that kind of way. So they weren't. There's sadly no, big success stories, but it gave those bands records they could hold in their hands and sell at shows, or do whatever they want to do with, and that was great. But I kind of lost the spark of like, well, I'm making careers start. There's a satisfaction to that. That's all I wanted, and I got that with Naked Praying, Green on Red, and of course with the Dream Syndicate, and now with the other bands. And right about the same time, this is the end of Down There in a way, at least for the time, is the LA Reader, the newspaper, the Reader, weekly Reader, did a cover story on Down There Records. When you say people, there was not much of a press trail. That was the one. They did a big, lengthy cover story on my little label in the Reader. I was very flattered, at the time. I said, cool, great, yeah. They talked to me and Russ. Well, after that happened, all of a sudden, people are contacting me, like, schmoozing me and talking to me. And if I saw people at gigs, they weren't talking to me about the Dream Syndicate or about who's my new favorite band. It was like, can I give you a demo tape? I went, uh-oh, this is not what I want. This is not who I want to be. I don't, this is not, So that was about when I said, okay, label days are over, and I stopped doing it.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's very interesting. But you did put out a compilation record, right? With the
yes,
only 39,999,999 behind Thriller, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that was the final one. That was kind of just a a compilation of, just to get all the, just to get people hip to all the bands. I mean, like I say, my biggest goal and motivation was with the dream that, well, hopefully the Romans and Divine Weeks and Doctor's Children, Top Jimmy and the Rhythm Pigs, and Rust Holm and all these bands will be as we'll have the same popularity and exposure that Dream Syndicate and Red did. So hopefully that'll happen to them too. And it wasn't really happening. So this was kind of a last ditch thing, maybe to get people to hear about their music and get turned on to them. And look, I'd like to think they're all happy with what happened, but I'll tell you something else that happened at the time too. And this is, maybe a little more candid than I should be, but I feel like I can be candid with you guys. But I was starting to get like some grief here and there, like, a certain member of Top Jimmy and the Rhythm Pigs kind of started being threatening with Russ about him not being honest about royalties, and a similar thing happened with Naked Prey. I don't want to badmouth people, but it was starting to get that type of thing where we were the enemy. It's like, are you guys, what's going on here? It's like, man, the last thing I'm planning on trying to do is rip you off. Like, you ask me any question, I'll give you the answer. You want to look at my, this is not what but that was a frustrating thing. Like, oh, how did this happen from I'm just a facilitator for your music and a cheerleader to I'm the suit? No, that's not what I did this for. And so all those things combined to me saying, that's enough. Now, in the years following that, that was the end of the label, but down there was the label for Here Come the Miracle. I just stamped the logo on there. And I always feel like, it could crop up again at any time. It's a cool name. It's a cool name for a label. It's a cool logo. It's ties into the very beginning of when everything started for me and the band. So, it might crop up again sometime.
Well, I recently picked up the acoustic and electric CDs that I've had digitally for a while, but I wanted, being a completist, I wanted to have the physical copies. And I did notice that on the back, there is a little down there on both. A version of the logo appears. So it got me thinking again that down there might be coming up here again, perhaps.
And there might be more in the future too, like that. It'll be tied into things I'm doing that that I want to do on my own. It's look. I mean, a couple times over the years we've made down there T-shirts and sold them on the road. And oh my God, those go so fast. People love those. They're just it's kind of people who know that, like you guys, people who know the history. It's like, that's a cool thing. And it's I'll say I never know. I still hear bands all the time that I just love and would love to turn people on to, and maybe someday I'll do that kind of thing again. It's I could have easily gone. It's funny. It's like at one point I ran into this guy, very well known, Frank Riley, who's a booking agent. In the 80s, he booked everybody. He was, for the scene that was having replacements, Dream Syndicate, Violent Femmes, Alex Chilton. I'm just, tip of the iceberg. He was, if you were kind of a cool underground indie band back then, he was booking you, and he did a great job. He was very supportive, knew how to get those bands out there, and was booked us for 7 years, almost the entire length of the band. He was our agent, and only on the very last tour we went with a big, big agency. It was a horrible mistake. Frank was fantastic, and since then he's become a big deal. He, now does Wilco and Los Lobos, and Ben's even far bigger, but I can't remember who they are. But sometime around the mid 90s, after I had been working with him for a while and his star had risen, he came to a show of mine, and he came up to me after the show, and we'd played a killer show. It was one of the earlier shows with Linda. It was that first band I had with her, and we had just knocked him dead. A club in San Francisco, sold out show, and he said, "Steve, I want to talk to you about an idea, something I think you'd be good with." And I said, "Oh, Frank's gonna be my agent again, or he's gonna propose I open a tour of one of his bands." He said, "I think you'd make a great A&R man." And my heart sank. Now, I kind of like, no, that's not what I want to do. Now, looking back, he was being very kind and generous to he, for all I know, if I would have said, "Frank, you're absolutely right, I might be a zillionaire today," or whatever, or who knows what, but but he was trying to help me out in a way, and like I feel like no, this is again that thing where I'm not no, I'm not. Never want to be music biz. I just want to make music, and that's fine for me. So I politely said, "Gosh, that's great, Frank. But did you dig the show? I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed what you just saw." But he's a good guy. He meant well when he said that.
Yeah, I can totally see where he would be coming from with that, because music, bands, and
I do, and I look at this like, I mean, people have done this well. The guy, I'm spacing on his name right now. The guy who did Creation Records. Uh,
oh yeah, I don't know who that is. I know that
I know,
label.
tip of my tongue. Great label. Great guy who ran the label and he ran it like, oh God. Anyway, I'm not going to torture myself with anybody hearing this might be saying it out loud right now. But he ran that label like a fan. He just he picked the bands he liked, and he did a great job and made the careers of Oasis and Primal Scream and My Bloody Valentine and blah blah blah. That's great. And I could have seen. You're right. I mean, I guess I had enough of business sense and enough savvy, and hopefully was enough of a kind person to musicians, made them feel safe and trusted, and had good enough taste. I could have gone at any point. It just, I guess, it's the thing about being in LA. You either kind of fall into the music business or have an aversion to it. And I was the latter. Despite having worked at a record store, despite having had a label, it's like, no. And it's kind of one of many, but not the main one, but one reason I moved to New York, because I just got tired of going to shows and having people say, well, so and so has a developmental deal with Griffins. I don't care. What? Yeah. How's their music? So I think it's that side of things. But the flip side was, I'm proud of what I did with Down There, because maybe people wouldn't have heard of Green and Red. Maybe they wouldn't have heard Naked Prey. Maybe we would, even the lesser records that didn't sell as well, even those wouldn't be out there for your friend who loves the Romans. So
yeah,
I didn't. My work was done.
Nice. So I think Alan McGee, was that who you were talking about?
Alan McGee, thank you.
I did a Google search while you were talking. So.
Well done.
Yeah, I'm very thankful that this label did exist, Steve, and that you gave these artists opportunities for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And it might again in some way, as time goes on. I mean, if I played a show tomorrow, in Italy, and some bands on the bill, and I freak about how good they are, and they say, "Oh my God, we'd love to get our music out there." There's no saying I wouldn't say, "You know what? Let me help you out again." Maybe that would happen. It's very, very possible. I mean, it's always been about music, and I've always, for example, been very obsessed with the opening bands. What bands were on the bill with shows I played, because I want them to be to help bands get started. Besides loving writing songs and playing music and making records, I've always loved being able to turn people onto music, like what you guys are great at that. You're criers for music that you want people to know about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're definitely trying to wave that flag, aren't we, Soraya?
You did an incredible job. I mean, we spoke a couple of years back. You're just starting this out, and you've got 140 shows now, something like that. How many now?
Sorry, what do we have?
I think this will be 136.
Yeah, so we're getting we're there. Yep, music that we love and that we're very passionate about.
Right.
That's for sure.
That's fantastic.
So, Steve, I want to tease a little bit that we might be able to invite you back, or we definitely want to invite you back. And this time, we're hoping that you can help guide the conversation. That may be happening here in the next few weeks for our listeners. We may be having Steve as a co-host, and so I don't want to say much more than that, because we're still planning. So
I will be in the Ronnie Barnett role. Yes. No, I'm excited. I know what you're talking about, and I'm very excited. And you know how excited I am about this show. So I hope it happens, and I think you'll be delighted at the stories and the connections to things we all love that will come up in this interview. There's a teaser.
Very good. Well, let's hope that happens for sure. We'll work on that. And for our listeners, if you see any one of these projects that Steve is doing, mainly his solo shows, please go out and see it. For the ones that are on the East Coast, please report back to me. I know a couple of my friends have said that they've gotten invites to some of these house shows, and please go see and report to me. But
Great
we're
for our
very
friends
excited.
in Europe too. Tell us about
Yes.
all the shows. Take photos. Give us your reviews. We want to hear it all.
That sounds
Yes.
great to me. Document.
Yes, please. And Steve, congratulations on the Decade vinyl, the 2 LP vinyl release that I went to 3 record stores to try to find. All of them were sold out, so I had
Ugh.
to do a little searching for the next couple days and found my copy. But congratulations on that. It's wonderful. I think curating that from the 11 CD set was just whoever did the curating on that did an amazing job, because there are 2 slabs of excellent vinyl.
Well, all credit to Pat Thomas for putting it together, and to Linda for the great photos and liner notes. So that, you know,
Yeah, those liner notes are great.
yes, she's fantastic. And Pat's, you know, I mean, we all love Pat. There's no
Yes.
doubt about that. Pat, many times over, but what Pat's done for me and the help, everything he did with the Decade box has been great. So it's so appreciated.
Indeed. All right, Steve, we'll let you go. We didn't want to take more than an hour of your time. We really appreciate it. I hope you get a chance this evening to get out and hang out with some friends. It's 4th of July weekend as we're recording this. So do get back and socialize like we're created to do.
Well, exactly. And you guys too. And enjoy the weekend, and let's start seeing shows and doing the things we love doing.
Absolutely.
Thanks again.
And, we'll love to hear about this Dream Syndicate session, how it turns out.
Okay. Maybe in this next secret interview, I'll give a little teaser on that too.
Ooh,
All right.
good.
Ooh.
All right.
Never know.
Thank
All right.
you so much.
Take care.
Stay safe.
Great talking to you.
You
Bye.
too. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Soraya, I had no idea what the name of the label meant. So
Now we know.
yeah.
It's down there or down
Or
there.
down there.
Down there.
Yeah.
But you know what?
Or down there.
Yeah. Something I find really it's a theme that we constantly keep coming back to, Jeff, and that is this friendship and kind of brotherhood. But all these Paisley Underground bands, they support each other. And then, I mean, here is Steve Wynn, who says, you know, I like this song. Why don't I just do it? Get it out of my system. And then it gets some traction. And then he says, you know what? Bangs, here's how you do it. You do it yourself. And then Green on Red, yeah, I'll distribute it, you know, and then, you know, you guys take it from there. And Naked Prey, how about you two? I like this idea of, I did it, you can too. I did it, let me share.
Yeah.
And like that label, but see, I thought it was really interesting that he said, the minute it started becoming like a business, that was kind of where he saw maybe an alternative, you know, let's have the business part of it dealt with by somebody else. And I'll continue doing what I'm doing on the side. And I mean, you look down this list of down there. Okay, so Jeff, we start with 15 minutes, which of course you have a copy. Why should I even question it? Then it goes Dream Syndicate, Green on Red, and then, you know, some other variants like cassette or EP. Then Naked Prey. Then there's a various album, the Enigma Variations. Then we go back, Dream Syndicate, Green on Red. The Romans, Russ Tolman, The Romans. Again, these are the same band, but, you know, maybe different format. That's what I'm looking at.
Yep.
Divine Weeks, The Doctor's Children, Top Jimmy and the Rhythm Pigs. And then the infamous 39,999,999 behind Thriller, that compilation.
Mm-hmm.
Then we go back to Green on Red, Gas Food Lodging, Dream Syndicate, Days of Wine and Roses, Steve Wynn, Here Come the Miracles.
Yes.
Steve Wynn and the Miracle 3. And again, look at this jump between Top Jimmy and the Rhythm Pigs, 1987. Then we go the compilation 89. Then Gas Food Lodging, 1992. Then this says here Days of Wine and Roses, but it's got to be like a remake
Reissue.
or
Yeah.
2001. Steve Wynn and the Miracle 3, 2003. Steve Wynn, Here Come the Miracles, 2001. Steve Wynn and the Miracle 3, 2003. Steve Wynn Riding Shotgun, 2004. Steve Wynn and the Miracle 3, Tick, 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 2005. Then, once again, Days of Wine and Roses, 2015. Then, Static Transmission, Steve Wynn and the Miracle 3. Not too long after that, and then same thing. Days of Wine and Roses and Dream Syndicate EP.
Yeah.
So,
and then these two,
and then of course we've got these solo albums that also have down there. I mean, it was interesting for him to say 3 bands, and then after that, Enigma comes in and it takes on a different character. But I just like the fact that he said, I wanted to turn on people to bands that I liked.
Yep.
Or bands that I wanted to help and share with people. And I think that is a part of a record label that I think many people just don't think exist. I mean, it's because it's seen as a business.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, well, look at you and your band, right? You guys have released your album. It's not an easy thing to do.
No.
And it's not an easy thing to, when you think about the cost versus breaking even. Like, I can totally imagine that party at El Coyote with Green on Red and Margarita Party.
Yeah.
Because they finally went into the black.
Yeah.
And then look at what we've been talking about. We talked about that Green on Red EP. We talked about, a long time ago, we talked about that Dream Syndicate EP.
Yeah.
2 very pivotal recordings for that moment in time in the LA music scene. I mean, and look, it reminds me of please help me. My days of Bible verses are long behind me, but it's like, and a young child shall lead them. And it's like, and a young label shall lead them.
Yeah.
It's like, come on along, let's see how it goes. And, and then we see Green on Red, Dream Syndicate, Naked Prey. And you and I have been talking about wanting to do a show on Naked Prey. And I think we have even more motivation to do it now.
Yeah, that may be coming very soon.
Yeah. This is just an interesting story. And
absolutely, I loved hearing Steve talk about this. It was very eye-opening, and his motivation behind it, and the reason why he kind of stepped back. And it all boils down to wanting to share the music and not be tied up in the financial business part of it, right? I mean, that's kind of the reason why he did it, and the reason why he backed out. That's the exact same reason for starting it, and same reason for getting out of it. So,
I mean, think about this: Doctor's Children. We met while we were on tour in the UK. You just never ever know when a band will just kind of strike your fancy, and boom, here you go.
Yeah.
Top Jimmy and the Rhythm Pigs. Still one of the best names I've heard in many years.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the Van Halen song that's about Top Jimmy?
I think I know which one it is.
Yeah. So, Steve, it was great.
And can we discuss for a hot second? We got an exclusive, Jack.
So what about these shows? Dream Syndicate playing songs
2 sets, brother. 2 sets. One of the last 3 releases.
Yes.
Second set.
Great albums too, by the way. Those last 3 albums are great.
And each one different from the other. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And
oh yeah.
Second set, Days of Wine and Roses, start to finish.
I'm in 100%.
Dude, I don't know when it's happening, where it's happening, but I'm in.
Yep.
If I have to show up in a hazmat suit, I will do it.
Yes.
Because that show is going to be beyond 40
Yeah.
years. Does it even feel like 40 years? Bloody hell.
No.
40 years anniversary of Dream Syndicate and the release of Days of Wine and Roses.
Yeah. And Steve put some perspective in it, talking about 40 years prior to that. So, but we haven't heard any of the Universe Inside live from a stage. So,
Yeah, you're right.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Dude.
Just as much as Days of Wine and Roses from top to bottom, which is an incredible classic album. But breaking news, folks, Dream Syndicate.
New Dream Syndicate reunion music.
Yes.
And remember that nothing that happens in a studio is happenstance, because the last album, right?
Mm-hmm.
My friend Stephen McCarthy's gonna show up, just kind of hang out.
Yeah.
Kind of jamming, and then bum
Plug
album.
Plug in your guitar, bro.
Yeah. And man. And if any of our listeners follow Mark Walton, Jason Victor, Steve Wynn, Chris Kakovas, or Dennis Stuck on social media, one of the things I'm really anxious for, Jason Victor, man. That guy's been he's bottled up.
Yeah.
So I'm just picturing that reunion family gathering at a studio in Virginia, and I have a feeling Jason Victor's is going to blow the roof off the sucker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh man, Jeff, I'm getting really excited.
Yes. Yeah.
You and I both have tickets to live shows, and can I just reiterate, Rain Parade, new music too.
Yes.
Photo on Facebook this week of the band
getting together, doing some jamming, doing some recording.
Dude, I'm starting to get really excited.
Yeah. So, Are you listening, Bengals? Are you listening, 3 o'clock? This Paisley Underground, it's still going. Come on.
Jeff, this is a breath of fresh air.
Agreed. Yeah.
Breath of fresh air.
It's so great that we've turned a corner here.
And I cannot say thank you enough to Steve Wynn for coming on and talking about Down There and giving us some exclusives.
Yes,
to hold on to. Then everybody just hold on to your horses. We got some fun stuff coming up.
Yep, indeed.
Dun, dun, dun. All right, so mi gente, agruviar, happy holiday weekend, and to everybody, stay safe, and if you're in a place where live shows are happening, go and support these venues, support these bands, and let's get back.
Indeed. Groove on, Paisley people.